Welcome to the Agent Upgrade Podcast with your hosts Jasmine, Krnjetin, and Alan Corey, where we learn the strategies of top producing real estate agents so you have the tools to upgrade your own real estate career.
Welcome to Agent Upgrade. Jasmine, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Alan. I think that there have been some interesting things happening in the market over the last week or two. So I think it's a good time for us to kind of put our heads together, interview some interesting people, and see if we can maybe get a different opinions on what's happening in the world right now.
Well, yeah, I think my intro was so flustered because I feel like a lot of real estate agents out there right now being flustered, being stressed out, feeling overworked, and now they're feeling underpaid. So I had an idea. This is going to be a little bit different of an episode, but more of a debate format. But I am in probably a dozen different real estate agents, real estate investors, mortgage groups, Facebook pages, things like this. And there is every other day, someone's making a comment or making a post about, oh my gosh, can you believe this, that this listing is only offering 2.5% to the buying agent, 1.5% to the buying agent. I've even seen 0% to the buying agent, which puts obviously buying agents in a tough spot because they're going to their clients and they're saying, hey, there's hardly any homes to look at. And if we find one that you like, you're going to have to go way over asking price. You're going to have to waive your financing contingency. You're going to have to waive your appraisal contingency. You're going to have a super short or zero due diligence. Oh, and for the first time, you're going to have to come out of your pocket to pay me as your buying agent on top of all this.
Yeah.
And then puts the agent in a tough spot who's saying, well, either that money goes to winning the offer or some of that money is going to be paying me. Like that's tricky, right? Like
Very tough. Yeah.
So of these dozen groups that I'm in and dozens of posts on this, I've reached out to multiple agents, and they're very, very vocal in these private real estate groups, but I couldn't get anyone to join the podcast to talk about it. However, I've got a veteran managing broker member of my team, Jan Smits, who's on the Alan Corey team, agent for 18 years, all the experience in the world. She's worked with buyers and sellers, knows the ins and outs of every single contract. She's the first person I go to for advice on my deals, honestly. I'm glad that she's on my team. And I said, listen, Jasmine and I want to do a debate on this. I don't know what side of the coin you're going to be on. You're going to either be on the side of this is a good thing, that this business practice of reducing the agent's commission, or it's going to be a bad thing and that agents should be paid equal or if not more. So reluctantly, I'll say she's joined, but no one wants to be vocal about this. So we're going to leave it up to you, Jasmine, to assign what side of the debate we're on. I want all of our listeners to know these opinions expressed don't necessarily reflect me nor Jan. We just want to have a healthy debate. I just couldn't get the forum or the people to join a roundtable to have this discussion. And I think people want to talk about it. And I do want to see all angles, regardless of whether I could get guests to come on and express those angles publicly. So please do not hold anything that we say as our own true opinions. This is all just sort of an exercise, a game, just like in a high school debate. You don't know what your topic's about, and then you don't know what side of the topic you're debating. So I just want to give all those disclaimers up front.
I love it. Jan is a good sport, so I appreciate her coming on.
Okay, well, with that being said, let's bring Jan into the studio. Welcome, Jan. Appreciate you doing this.
Thanks for pressuring me into this, Alan.
Yes.
No one would touch. I love it.
Welcome to our game show.
Yeah, spin the dial and possibly destroy your career in one spin. Just kidding. No, this should be fun, and it's kind of. I'm intrigued to see where it goes because I have not seen a lot about this coming up. So I wasn't even really aware that this was on the table or a hot topic or a topic. So So I'm curious. So it's starting fresh to me.
Okay. Well, that being said, Jasmine, who should have what side of the debate here?
All right, because Jan is kinder and softer than you are. She's going to keep fighting for what the real estate agents want, which is keeping their commission at 3%. And then Alan, you get to fight a good fight of why agents should reduce their commission and why it's a good idea that somebody is only going to pay their buyer's agent a 0.5% commission. How's about that? What do you guys think?
Well, I'm going to be the villain, but I'm willingly accepting that role. Thank you. Yes.
I mean, we know that you want to get paid your 3%. We all know that,
right?
but we can play the role of like the devil's advocate, right? Why this is a good idea and how it's going to make the market more competitive and so on and so forth. So, yeah. So, are you guys both accepting your challenge?
I will definitely accept the challenge, but I'm going to be all brokery and sticklery here for a minute. And I'm going to try to avoid using 3% because I don't want to talk about standard commissions too much and run the risk of violating any antitrust stuff, as far as price fixing or commission fixing. We all know that commissions are flexible, which is part of what this topic is about anyway. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to avoid saying a standard 3%, which maybe makes me sound like I'm more on the villainy side.
Wait, should we switch things up then? Very good. I think we lost Alan, but we'll just keep talking amongst ourselves. So a commission is the charge to a seller for successfully procuring a ready, willing, and able buyer for the seller's property on terms set forth in a listing agreement or other such terms as the seller is willing to accept. So just in case you're wondering what we're talking about, now I think that we're going to touch a little bit on commission splits and how that goes and how that touches and what that actually means for the buyers. Because ultimately, I feel like that's really what we're fighting for here is our buyers, right? Where we want to make sure that our buyers have the best possible outcome, but at the same time, we also have to be very conscious of how our real estate agents are going to be able to make a living still. So, okay, Alan, you're back, I think.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so I'll start as the bad guy.
All right,
that works for you guys. Okay, so to me, I think that right now, like capitalism, if you've got gold in any fashion, whatever's hot, shiny, rare at that moment, you should be compensated more for that. So listings in a seller's market are that gold, and they're harder to come by. They're harder to get listings. This is a rare item, and a person who can dig up that gold or get that listing commission signed or talk a seller into selling in this crazy market because it's going to be difficult for them to buy, that is a skillful task. Possibly there's some luck involved. And when it's a hot market like this, you should be compensated more. So if I negotiate a 6% listing agreement or even a 5% listing agreement, whatever it is to get that gold to the market, I would see the value of lowering the commissions to 1% or 0.5% or even 0%, because to me, I know I'll get multiple offers regardless. There may be a few agents that say, I'm not going to show that property because of XYZ. And in a hot market like that, that's going to reflect poorly more on that buying agent who said, I know there's no homes to look at. Oh, here's one on the market. I'm still not going to show it to you. That conversation is not going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. That difficult conversation I'll be forced that agent to have a difficult conversation with their buyer to say, hey, I'll show it to you. I want you to know you're going to have to pay 3% on top of that. So that's sort of what I see is happening, and this is the viewpoint of the Open Door, Orchard, Knock, those sort of iBuying programs. They're like, listen, we're the only ones that have inventory because we've been buying up homes. We're going to get compensated for it, and we know you're going to show you the homes anyway, and we can ask a crazy price, and sometimes they sell and sometimes they don't. So that's my beginning argument.
All right, Jan, over to you. What are your thoughts on why this is a bad idea?
Well, I mean, to say it's a bad idea is that's a strong thing to say. I mean, I think it's going to be impactful in the sense that you're definitely going to stem the flow of new agents entering the market, because we all know that most agents start out as buyer's agents. It's usually easier to get buyers. We know that. But if they can't support themselves because they're getting 1.5% commissions after churning out offer after offer after offer for every buyer that they have, I mean, it's not a viable career to start for anyone. So, does that open us up as an industry to a complete and total takeover for your Zillows, your Open Doors, is that what we want as agents? Now, as far as the whole capitalist ideal, sure. Yeah. I mean, I back that. I'm born and raised here in this country of capitalist standards, but I think that we've got sellers who are, they are crushing it like we haven't seen ever, at least not in my near 20 years of market experience. So could you potentially, as we know, commissions are not fixed. Could you bring your commissions up with your sellers? Hey, listen, if I achieve this price, for you, I'll take 7% instead of 6% or 8%. That way you can protect maybe that more typical 3% to the buyer's agent, but you as a listing agent are making more. So that might be one way that everybody kind of wins. The seller's still winning because they're walking away with an enormous net at the closing table. The listing agent is increasing their income, and the buyer's agent is still protected.
I like that. So what would that be would that be something that the buyer's agent could do as well? If you know that this is a say an Open Door listing that's only paying 2% commission, could you say, like, my buyer is willing to offer, instead of offering $350, they're willing to offer $355, but the buyer's agent commission needs to be 3%?
I mean, well, essentially that's the buyer paying that commission to you.
Right. That is.
But yeah, the difference being that if it's out of pocket rather than financed, right? Like it's so much better if you can just raise the price and have the buyer pay them. Yeah.
And I think most of the time in situations like for sale by owners where you have a seller who's not willing to pay a commission to a buyer's agent, that is typically how it's done.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I find that the most difficult situation is if we put our buyers in a place where they have to cover the commission, especially buyers that don't have a home that they're selling. They're just getting into the market. They've heard you can get into a home with 3% down. And then I come in as the big bad mortgage banker and I say, hey, guess what? There's another 3% that you have to pay for closing costs. And then you as the agent are going to have to come to them and say, well, guess what? There is another 3% for my commission. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, you have to have at least, 10% to get into a home as a first-time home buyer. And that's a lot of cash for people just getting into the market.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's getting more and more difficult, but I do want to, as the villain wearing the villain hat, I want to go back to a comment that Jan said and the rebuttal that she provided, and that is this creating a situation for the big bad, iBuying programs to push us out, right? Because we're newer agents are being pushed out because one, they only have few clients and they maybe don't have the chops to win bidding wars or experience, or you're spending a lot of time before they can get a deal under contract. as real estate agents, we're all our own company, right? We're all entrepreneurs. We're all individual companies that are competing with these iBuyer programs, but we're also competing with each other. I see this in every extreme market. If it was the opposite, a seller's market 2009, when everyone had listings and no one had buyers, it would be very, very common to say, hey, I'm going to offer, I can't sell this home. Like I've even done this in markets where it's not considered a extreme. Hey, this is a funky home to sell. This is difficult. I'm going to offer 4% buyer's agent, and I'm going to keep 2 for myself, just because I want to give someone an extra incentive to sell this property. And it's a marketing tactic, right? And it's, hey, sometimes I'll do that for the client, but I guess what I'm going at is, I think to make it in this business, every agent is your competition, regardless if that agent is a I agent or not. And if you are the one that can go through extreme markets, whether it's extreme seller, extreme buyer, you've built your business, your connections, you've went all in on this business to make it succeed. That's capitalism at its finest, regardless of whether there's technology backing it, venture money backing it, or it's an individual person that And unfortunately, as it is, yes, it's going to wipe out a lot of new agents. And we're in a situation where there's some crazy stat, like there's 7 times the number of agents licensed than there are listings. So they should wash out. And we've all done deals with terrible agents, right? In some capacity. And I think our business would be better and our reputation would be better if those marginal agents do find another career path.
I don't disagree for a second with weeding out, the the weaker links. Let's clear out the gene pool a little bit. That's a-okay. These big markets can be, breeding grounds for really, really terrible or not committed agents. Although you'd have to be pretty committed to be a buyer's agent in this market. But you say that agents are competing against each other, but I think one of the reasons that this shift you're talking about hasn't been successful and hasn't taken off is that most agents don't just list, especially in a market like this where the inventory is low and the competition for listings is really high. Most agents work with buyers and sellers. So, I mean, really, what are you doing here if you're robbing yourself of your own buy side commission so that you can keep more on the list side? Like, it's kind of a break even. Is it really worth the, you already know you're working harder on the buying side when you do it. Why would you arrange as an agent to work for less money on the buy side?
So I agree. Yeah, buying is always agent. That's regardless of the market. Buying agent is always the harder work, right? I think if you're growing a successful business as an agent, you always need to be flexing both sides because you don't know what market you're in, and because it does clean out the gene pool potentially, and you're helping your own business grow. And I'm going to give you a counterpoint to that because I understand if I start offering 0% or 1% on buying agent, I'm not going to have a very good reputation amongst other agents, the ones who do survive. So when I'm going up in a bidding war, I'm giving an argument for you, Jan. That's the one thing where I could be like, okay, my reputation does probably earn me a lot of deals, wins me a lot of bidding wars. They know I'm going to be easy to work with. They know my buyer is going to be vetted completely by Jasmine, and that the offer is going to be strong. And that's the one knock that I can probably see. But to answer your point is, I mean, yeah, maybe that's what those iBuying programs, they don't care about their reputation. They care about volume and they're greedy, and they may win out with those instincts.
Yeah, I mean, it may happen, or we could even see a shift towards, there may end up being something like sub agency again, where you know, I mean, who knows what the outcome would be if there were to be a real shift like that. You know, and if these companies took over listings entirely.
Mhm.
But I also did want to make one comment back to, you know, your point about selling bonuses being offered back in the leaner times of the recession, when we were all listing like crazy, and then trying to give up our commission towards the buyer side. You know, I don't think it plays quite as well that way. Because again, you were giving up your own commission. You weren't putting the squeeze on the seller. You weren't saying, hey, seller, we want you to pay an extra % commission because we want to offer this 1% to the agent. I mean, sure, you could try it, but it didn't usually go over very well because the seller was the one being squeezed at that time. You know, they were bringing money to the closing table. They were watching their net shrink and shrink and shrink. So that would have made you a very popular listing agent. So you would oftentimes just offer a portion of your commission to try and incentivize the other agent. So likewise, it's not going to go over super well to turn to your buyer and be like, well, you're already being squeezed really hard, but now this seller's only going to pay me 2%. You're going to have to pay me that 1%.
I think it's interesting. Yeah. I think it's interesting. It feels like that the pendulum has swung all the way from, you know, from back in 2008, you know what I mean? Where you couldn't find a buyer, right? To like now we're all the way into, it's basically like it was the exact opposite. So of course it's going to come back into the center, right? But we're like at the extreme opposite of where we were in 2008. Like now the sellers are getting all the money, all the attention, wherein in 2008 was like all about like, hey, can you please freaking buy this house? Right. So it's the opposite.
Now I will say I have been doing this long enough to say that pendulum is going to swing again.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be a bunch of agents gunning for you, Alan.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Again, if you're just joining us, we what our views are a debate format. It doesn't necessarily mean that either one of us are the views that we're expressing are our own. We're just trying to see both sides of the coin.
I think it just depends on whether you're the buyer's agent or the seller's agent per transaction. That's whose view you have. So if you're the seller's agent, then you may be on Alan's side. But if you're buyer's agent on that transaction, you're Jan's side.
But to go back to Jan, where sellers are the belle of the ball, like I can't see a situation where I walk into a listing appointment and say, hey, it's a hot seller's market. I want 7, 8, 9%. Because the seller is going to be like, you know, Alan, you understand I've got 12 other agents that'll probably do this for 4% or 2%, right? Like that try to squeeze a little bit extra from the seller is going to be difficult and tough. It's like, so I don't see that happening. I don't see that conversation happening.
See, but I take your own words right back to you. I mean, the agents who are winning these listings are the best agents out there. So yeah, we should be able to talk our sellers into a higher commission. You know, and I mean, we're the best out there. And if we can get them, and like I said, there's no reason we can't say, hey, this is what I think your house is going to sell for. But I've got a couple tricks up my sleeve. And if I can pull this number out of my hat and I can achieve you this much more, then I deserve a cut.
I like that.
And I don't think that that's a terrible thing to try and sell somebody. And I've actually seen agents do that, and not in this market either, but in a more moderate market. So I think it can be done. You know, I mean, I've seen folks. I mean, I used to listen to tapes where, you know, there was one guy I listened to, and I wish I could remember his name. It was when I was starting out, but it was like every listing you walked into, you were trying to achieve that 7% listing. You know?
So you're. Let me rephrase what I think you're saying, and I like it. Where you say, hey, standard right now 6%, it's negotiable, but if I can get you 50,000 over list price or $100,000 over list price, it's adjustable to 7%. I'm going to work harder to get you more money. And they might say, well, the more you sell it for, the more you get, because it's a percentage of the sale price. But to to get 100K over asking price, it's a lot of work. You got to filter through 60 offers and manage the showings and all that stuff.
You sure do. I mean, it's it's not necessarily an easy job to be a listing agent now either. So, let's keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I mean, you're managing a lot of offers. It's a lot of explaining to sellers. And it's a lot of ball juggling. And then at the end of the day, you have to disappoint a lot of people, and that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
So,
especially if you're a people pleaser, you have to make those phone calls and be like, yeah, sorry, we took another offer. It's
a hard thing to do nicely. Mm-hmm. And while maintaining relationships with other agents. I've seen some agents do it really well, and I've seen some agents do it really, really poorly. So,
yeah, I think we mentioned this on a past podcast. Like, your reputation and how you handle these busy listings comes back to you when you go buy and put an offer on, and you're like, you didn't respond to my email for 3 days, and you never give me a reason why my offer didn't get accepted. So yeah, we're definitely in a relationship business, especially with other agents. I want to show you some of the strategies I've seen in other listings out there, and then we can discuss whether this is good or bad. I've seen something that says, in the listing special stipulations, and I've actually copied this for one of my listings. I liked it so much, where it said, if you are a iBuyer company, and give a list of 5 or 6 of them that exist in the market, who routinely offers 1.5% to buy an agent, then you're being paid 1.5% on this listing. If you're an individual agent or on a team that's not part of these companies, then you get 3%. This is my understanding that they can't do that unless the listing agreement says that. But this is a veteran agent who I've seen do this. I'm pretty sure he's got that in listing it, which I found was maybe a way to fight against the big bad guys. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's very interesting. I mean, fair is fair, right? That's how.
Where exactly was that language?
In the special stipulations of the listing.
But where was that buyer's agent going to have opportunity to see that?
No, it just basically said, if you don't work for Orchard, Knock, Zillow, Redfin, or whatever they were, then your broker percentage is 3%. If you do, it's 1.5%.
Okay, so that was an agreement that they made with the seller.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, that's interesting.
And then I saw another company, another local brokerage here, and what they're trying to do is they say, we're going to look at your last 6 months of listings, you personally, your last 6 months listings, and your teams. We're going to take the average of what you give the buyer, and then that's what we're going to give you.
It's an interesting way to fight back on this thing.
Well, again, I mean, I think the first one sounds like someone who knows what they're doing. The second one is a lot harder to put into a listing agreement and have the seller sign it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both trying to accomplish the same thing. Like, if you are a discount broker, we're going to pay you discount prices because that's what you pay us when we buy your homes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I don't know legally if that's allowed, but it's an interesting idea.
I mean, I think if the seller agrees to it, I mean, it's the seller who's paying that commission, and I don't see why that wouldn't be legitimate. But I don't know. I don't know for sure.
You guys find that like the offers that come in from like the iBuyers as purchase offers, that those are competitive because they usually come in as cash? Is that what happens? Like when they see like an Orchard offer, it's going to be a cash offer, or how does that work for the buyers?
Well, yes, because a lot of these iBuyer programs say, hey, if you sell your home with us, then we will front up the cash offer for you to buy the home, and then you can refinance with us later. So they have all these little extra tools and incentives that are unique to the traditional way of doing real estate.
And let's touch on the whole cash offer situation. So what are you guys like? We're seeing a tremendous amount of cash offers, right? Some of them are coming from these iBuyer programs because usually people don't have $600,000-$700,000 sitting around in cash. Then who else is offering on these cash? And can you tell as a listing agent, who is making the offer? Like, is it a hedge fund? Like, where can you just, or does it come across when you're looking at the offer that just say Joe Smith is offering a cash offer, or can you immediately tell, oh, this is coming from an iBuyer program, this is coming from a hedge fund offer, this is an investor pool?
I mean, I think the pre-qualification or proof of funds is quite clear whether it's a third party that offers such a service or not. But I think if that offer is the strongest and it beats out everything else, it'll probably work, right? It might be slower to get done. There's probably not a human that you can ever talk to. And I would have those conversations with my sellers and say, I know this is the strongest offer, but we may have to move the closing date because of red tape. I won't be able to give you periodic updates and explain it. And then it's up to the seller to say it's worth taking that risk or not, that extra 5,000 or 50,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah, we had an offer where my buyer was an FHA buyer, and the listing agent told me that they had 38 other offers, and the number one offer was an iBuyer program, and we were number two. Mistakenly, they took the number one offer, but my buyer made a backup offer and they backed out 2 days later. And so we got FHA buyer got the number one spot right next to a cash offer. I was like, this is some good stuff.
Yeah. 38 offers to win
38
FHA. That's amazing.
You have an FHA buyer competing with an all cash offer. That's not a bad thing. But yeah, so I think that in this market, we just have to be like super creative and figure out how to make it best for our buyers. I mean, of course, I'm always on the buyer side, right? Because I'm always like, my heart is always bleeding for these first-time home buyers that are trying to get into their first home in this market. And I personally find it super hard if the commissions are getting put back on the buyers, because their buyers are already priced out. They're already having to offer 10% over asking. And now on top of that, we're going to ask them to pay the realtor's commission. It's already, I guess to me, it's already being paid by the seller, right? It's already being paid by the seller. So now we're going to make it the buyer's job to then go back to the seller and ask for it again. Like, we already have a pretty good system going on where the sellers are covering this. So that's my opinion on that whole thing. But yeah.
And I mean, I feel in general, like, big, sudden, irrevocable changes don't work well in most systems. So, and I don't think they're going to work here. I don't think it's going to suddenly catch on like wildfire and be unchangeable, because again, this isn't a market that's going to last anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
don't take enemies. Yeah. keep all your people, because you're going to need them.
Alan.
Okay, I'm gonna make another argument for this is a good thing. No, I don't necessarily believe it again, but like, depending on the price points, if you get into like over $1 million and stuff, taking a 2% buyer agreement, but the house is now selling for $100,000 and $200,000 more than it typically would, it kind of shakes out of like making 3% in a normal market kind of thing. It is sort of also how I look at it. Also, the long-term view of an agent is, okay, you guys are both rolling your eyes. That's okay. Also, the long-term view of an agent, the way I always look at it is, hey, I just need to get as many buyers as I can, because at all times, because in 5 years, these buyers are going to be sellers. So I'm okay taking hits as a buyer sometimes in my head. And I've also won bidding wars where it's in a normal market where, hey, I say, I'm only going to take 2%. I know you're offering 3%, but I'm only going to take 2% of the buyer's commission. The extra percent either goes to the listing agent or to the seller. However, they want to decide how to spend that extra 1% just for me to get the buyer under contract and to win the deal. I've done that to win deals in a normal market. So to me, it's, let's get as many buyers as we can. I don't care if I take the hits, the punches in the face right now, 5-7 years when they're sellers. It's going to be great.
Alan, I've listened to your podcast enough to know how you really think. I feel like there should be like some sort of superimposed like nose growing thing. you don't believe. I mean, yes, sure, you're going to take the hit so you can get your buyers, so that they can sell in 5 or 7 years when the market's down and their listing is worth less. But then again, guess what? Most of your listings, your sellers are moving somewhere too, and they're buying out. So is it the money that you have in hand today is worth more than it might be in 7 years? I mean, not with inflation necessarily, right. But theoretically it's money made, it's bird in hand. So I think it's a wash.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like in an ideal world, what I would like to see, since we're talking about this, I would like to see the buyer's agents get their full 3%, but I would actually like them to get 4% and then give 1% back to my buyers as credit. I think that would be the best, because then my buyers would have an extra percent coming towards their closing costs. Now they only need to pay 2% of their closing costs, and that makes my life better. So can we just do that?
So I do have a question, because I'm curious. I haven't seen anything where I haven't seen any listings where there's been a reduction in what the commission is being offered to the buyer's agent. I haven't seen that.
Oh, I see this every day.
Are you seeing that in town? Are you seeing that in particular price points?
Everywhere. Like,
are you
get in a realtor Facebook group. There'll be 10 posts a week about it with the screenshot. Yeah.
But is it only like the open doors and the?
No. It's sometimes the one yesterday I saw that really got everyone upset. It was an agent listing their own home offering 2% to the buyer.
Come on.
But I want to go back to your point, Jasmine, that if we created an incentive where the 1% went to the down payment for the buyer, that could actually create a situation where your home would sell for more, and it would put more money in the agent's pocket and more money into the seller's pocket, right? Because now your buyers have extra cash to buy.
Yeah.
Well, I did just get an offer where a buyer's agent did give up 0.5% to try and sweeten the deal, grease the wheels, put a little more money in the seller's pocket. So there are buyer's agents who are doing that.
And I think there is definitely buyers. I mean, there have always been buyer's agents that are like, if I do both transactions, like if I sell, I'll take a 1% commission on the sale and 3% on the buy, or vice versa. There have always been just like traditional agents, not iBuyer programs, just regular agents that have always, that's how they do it. That's how they get both the listing and the sale, because they offer a 1%. There was one realtor that I know, he would regularly give back or a rebate back to the buyers from his commission of 1. And that would be just like traditional every single deal. So the buyers knew if they work with this agent, they're going to get 1% back towards their closing costs. But he was giving it up from his 3% because he was looking at it like, hey, I just sold their house. I just made 3% on the sale. I'm going to go ahead and just take a 2% commission and sweeten the deal for the buyers.
That's Alan's favorite.
Oh man, yeah, don't get me started on that. But we've had those debates. Like, anyway, that's another podcast that we'll debate. But in that situation, so what is the expectation if you find yourself in that situation, or it's this hot listing and you have nothing going on except this one listing, and it's a connection. You got to make this work. And the only way you won the deal was, I'll do this for 1%, or 3%, whatever, total listing commission. And then you put it up on the market. It's 1.5% for buyer, 1.5% for seller. And everyone's upset with you. And you're like, listen, I'm not getting rich. It's not that I'm keeping 3.5 or 4.5 for myself. It's I'm taking 1.5 and you're putting 1.5. And I've seen agents be upset that says, well, that's on you. You still should offer 3%. And I don't know. Like when I see the reduced commissions, you can't necessarily assume they signed a contract for 6%, right?
Oh yeah, wouldn't you? Yeah, I mean, I think that if that's the situation, if that's what it's going to take to sell it, then I think fair is fair, right? If we only have 3%, we're both working hard. Let's split it. But I don't know. I would want to know. I mean, if I were that listing agent, I would make sure that my buyers agents knew this is the situation. This is why I'm only offering you 1.5, because I only got 3 and we got to split this thing.
I mean, I can't imagine the circumstances that would induce an agent to take a listing like that.
They've got nothing going on. It's their first listing. They just got their license.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be difficult.
Well, I mean, maybe so, but I mean, again, then you take the reduction on your side. It doesn't necessarily need to discourage.
I mean, it's already reduced, right? It's 3% total, 1.5 each side.
Yeah, but I mean, still, I mean, if you're a new agent starting out and you just want to get a listing,
yeah,
and you want it to go well and you want to sell it, I don't think new agents are the ones who are out there cutting buyers agents commissions, is my point.
I mean,
is Duffy still going strong with their $500 listings? Have you heard of them lately? I haven't heard.
Well, that's a curious point. I feel like in this market, which is such a seller's market, and it, I hate to say this out loud because anybody can come after me for this one, but I mean, you put a listing up and people are going to come clamoring for it. You would think that this would be a market that would be really strong for FSBOs or Duffys or Clickets or Redfins, and I am seeing none of that. Like, you would think this would be hot for them. Where did they all go? It is not.
I have not seen a Duffy offer for years.
And I think that's saying something, I mean,
I think they're being pushed by these iBuy companies because they have better tools, because it's not, clients feel like they're getting more because of the technology, would be my guess. But yeah. And also I think these iBuy programs and these sort of discount brokerages that you guys mentioned before, their listings seem to linger because they're not pretty, they're not marketed well, they're always overpriced because typically the seller gets to just make up whatever price, and you're like, sure, go list it whatever you want. And I think it's working now for some of these big iBuy, like the Open Doors and stuff like that, because they ask some crazy prices, and you see a lot of them just shockingly going under contract. But yeah, as soon as the market teeters the other way, I think all those listings are just going to be sitting forever, and they're going to feel it in their pocketbook, and it's going to wash away some of these iBuying programs, like it's already done to Zillow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So sort of to wrap this up, I don't know if there's Jasmine, if you can crown a winner here, but
I don't know, Alan. I mean, you're a good talker, but your arguments were a little, a little bit hard to put my emotions behind. Let's put it that way. I would have to say that Jan did a really good job arguing for the 3% commission situation.
Well, congratulations, Jan. You did make some good points.
So,
what's that?
As any big change is a hard thing to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the changes that we're seeing are 100% temporary. It's all market driven, and when the market switches, those sort of deals are going to go out the window, and your reputation doesn't swiftly change with the market. It's more of a long-term effect, and so. I see that point, and I think it's just communication, and we're all out there hustling, working really hard. And as agents, we take punches in the face all the time, even from our own clients sometimes. So this might be one of those times where we're doing it.
It's just like the Oscars.
Yeah. Very timely.
Very nice. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. This was super fun, and to be continued. We shall see how this unfolds over the next year or two, and we'll reconvene and listen back to this and see if we were right.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It was a hoot.
Well, thanks for being a good sport, Jan, when other agents did not want to go publicly on either side of this debate. So thank you. Thanks for
letting me be the good guy.
Yeah.
We'll talk soon.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening to the Agent Upgrade Podcast. Please follow us on our social media channels, The Agent Upgrade Podcast on Instagram. We're trying to grow that, and we're doing a good job putting these clips, highlights from these shows up there. Please like and review and follow our podcast and give reviews online so other people know about it, and join our Facebook group. We're always pushing social media. So thank you for all the love and the listeners, all the likes and the downloads. We appreciate it and follow it along. Thanks, guys. See you next time on Agent Upgrade.
Thank you for listening to the Agent Upgrade Podcast. If you are an agent looking for a new mortgage lender, start with Jasmine at jasmineteam.com. If you want to learn about real estate investing and working with investors, check in with Alan at thehouseofac.com. See you next time on Agent Upgrade.